Pakistan. A lot of people will be like, you're going to Pakistan, you're going to die. And I'm like, actually, Pakistan was absolutely remarkable. And I loved Pakistan. It was incredible.
Welcome to the Next Level Income Show, where it's our goal to take your income, your investments, and your life to the next level. I'm your host, Chris Larson. If you haven't yet, get a copy of our book for free at our website, nextlevelincome.com. That's www.nextlevelincome.com. Just click on the book link, and I'll even send you a copy if you put your address in. On today's show, we have my friend Derek Peterson. We have an entertaining and fun story, but also we're going to dive into several things that are going to help you create true freedom in your life the same way Derek did as well in his business. Now, Derek's story doesn't begin with success. It begins with struggle. Growing up in Columbia, Maryland, his defining moment came in 8th grade when he nearly failed the grade and was placed in a lower academic track. But instead of accepting that, he made a decision that would shape his life. He realized his trajectory was a choice that he could make, and discipline and vision can rewrite the narrative that has been written. And he went on to build a successful career in high-performance environments like ADP, Covidien, Allergan. He mastered systems, leadership, and growth, and he's used all of that learning that he has to create his own business. He stepped into entrepreneurship. He launched and scaled a medical device company to over 2,500 reps nationwide. But on the outside, it looked like success. Behind the scenes, his cost was high. He's going to talk about the burnout, the disconnection, ultimately the divorce that marked a rock bottom, but a rebirth where he came up with a new idea, how he could be free and travel the world. And today, Derek and I are going to get into that story and how his new company, Adapt Media, was born. All right, so Derek, we either made the biggest mistake that I've ever made podcasting, or we made the best choice, because we didn't record the first 15 minutes of our conversation, which have been some of the most controversial things that have come out of my mouth in recent history. So probably would be entertaining, but if you're listening, there's a high chance that you may either disagree or be offended. So we're gonna start from here. Deal?
Yeah, we got it out of our system. I think it's probably good for most of your listeners, but for those interested in that piece, maybe we can have like a paid subscription.
There you go.
That's it's entry only. Yeah, after dark conversation. So
that's right,
Chris.
That's
always
right.
Great, man, to be on your show. We have no shortage of just things to talk about, so this will be fun.
Yeah, well, I'm going to start with a fun story. So our listeners, they don't know from the intro here that you've been homeless for the past 2 years, and most of my listeners at this point know that both my boys play lacrosse, and we're in Charlotte with their team after a game one day, and we pop into Viva Chicken, which is my son's favorite Peruvian chicken place in Charlotte, and I look over and I'm like, man, that guy over there looks like my friend Derek. And then I look and I was like, well, it can't be him because he's in like Dubai this week. And I look, I'm like, well, that looks really similar to his wife. And then it dawns on me that it's you and your lovely wife, Amy. And happens to be that you were in America for a couple weeks, and we were in the exact same place at the exact same time last year. Derek, how crazy is that?
Meant to be, man. If you want to find me in a good restaurant, it's typically in Viva Chicken. So that's like my spot to get good, like relatively healthy, fast, and quick food. So yeah, I was so happy to see you, man, and your son. And yeah, it was like good timing. We shared a meal together. It was a bonding moment.
We did. It was a lot of fun, and I love stories like that. My wife's always telling me, so it's crazy. I ran into a friend of mine in Glenwood Springs at the hot springs on a whim last week, coming back from Salt Lake City.
Random.
Yeah, it's crazy. She's like, what the heck are you doing here? I'm like, what are you doing here? But anyway, we go on about that. But Derek, I mentioned 2 years. 2 years you've been homeless. Tell the audience a little bit about that story, and then we're going to talk about how you created a life so that you have the freedom to travel and be a tremendously successful business owner. That, by the way, you and your company help produce this podcast.
That's right. Good point. Yeah, I make sure my editors make me look young and handsome. If your editors are listening, same with Chris. It's a lot easier for you because you're already there. Especially your new clean shaved face. It looked remarkable. Right. I'm so used to that salty mountain man beard of yours. It's weird to see you without that fur coat on. Yeah, so I've been home for 2 years. We joke about it. My wife and I, everything I'm about to share with you, we started a YouTube channel called Rich and Homeless.
Rich and Homeless.
So that That's right. So, and I'll get into the naming convention and why we came up with that
Yeah.
name. I think it was that like an oxymoron or something. I don't know what that is. It was like opposites or something. That's going back to like eighth grade English. But it we made a decision. Uh, it would have been probably 3.5 years ago, that we are getting to a stage in our life where we're going to become empty nesters, right? You get to that stage where, we had built successful businesses, multiple different businesses, a couple in real estate, a marketing agency, a travel agency, and I was your typical entrepreneur, which I know you are as well, Chris, where you are somewhat addicted to the chaos, right? You
A little bit,
like the
a little bit.
grind. You like, yeah, it's like a drug, right? A good drug, but a drug that can also be abused.
Agreed. Yeah.
And I would say I didn't realize it. I was in denial that I was abusing that drug, and I was, your typical 10 to 12 hour a day grind kind of a guy. And I loved it, but it was also coming at the detriment of other things in my life that I think maybe were playing second fiddle to that. I'd gone through that cycle earlier in my career, rebounded from when I met Amy, got remarried, and swore I wouldn't fall into the trap again of just being this guy that was just so monomaniacally focused on my business. And my wife and I started these couple businesses, is where it started. I was like, hey, I get remarried in, I should probably know this, 17. And I was like, I was in healthcare at that point. You and I were both like
Yeah.
OR
We'll
med
touch on
device
that. Yeah.
prior. Yeah. And I started a medical distribution company. That was my first entrepreneurial venture. Went really well until it didn't. And I, learned a lot of lessons. When I met Amy, I was like, you know what? I'm done with this. I'm gonna go do stuff that I like. I'm gonna chase my passion versus my pension. I had made some money, so I could take that risk. I was like, I'm gonna start a marketing firm and I'm gonna start a travel agency. And one day I'm gonna travel the world full time and be able to run my marketing company from anywhere. And that was the dream, right? Back in
Yeah.
17. I didn't actually think it was gonna actually happen, because that's exactly
Really?
what we're doing today. I
Yeah.
didn't.
Wow.
I thought of it. It was the reason why I did it, Chris, but like I didn't actually like check in with that mentally year after year after year. But it was a seed that was planted, and it was one that needed to be dust off, watered, and sprouted. And when I gave it true intention 3.5 years ago, when we stared down the barrel of, here we are in this house that's way too big for us now, right? It's a
Yeah.
6 bedroom house, it's 3 stories. I'm like, use 1/5 of it,
Yeah.
and the rest of it is just completely empty. And we had all these cars, all these things. And I'm like, what am I doing? Like, none of stuff makes me actually happy. What we realized is that we traveled a lot. And it was through the act and experiences and the culture and the food lessons and the way you open and expand through traveling to different countries and cultures, that I was like, I feel most alive doing this. How do I get more of this in my life? Oh, shoot. Wait, why don't we go back to that dream that we thought of? Being an extreme guy like you are, that wants to take something to the ninth degree, I had to do it at a scale that I thought felt hard and impossible. I needed that juice. I needed that hard thing to go do. So, being the entrepreneur that was working 10 to 12 hours a day, I was like, how do I go from doing that, right, to working 15 hours a week? So, I had this vision. I was like, how can I run these 4 different businesses, work 15 hours a week, and the rest of the time I can go screw off around the world and experience life? I'm 50. I look at the rope of time that I have left. I got more behind me than in front of me. So I was like, I need to go experience life. So we decided to sell our house, our car, all our possessions, and travel the world full time. It took us a year and
Incredible.
a half to get to that point. And that was the easy part, was making the decision. The hard part, which I know we're looking at in box, was I wouldn't be able to enjoy it, right? If I'm working 10, 12 hours a day and I'm doing it in Portugal or Dubai or Pakistan or all these places that we've been to,
Yeah.
how I need to completely change the way in which I do things to be able to get to that point of 12 hours a day to 15 hours a week. And
Yeah.
that became the bane of my existence,
Mm.
and still to this day is what has really shaped how I was able to get here. And
Yeah.
it's something that one can do.
Yeah. I love that. And, for the record, you don't have to be as extreme as Derek or I in your endeavors, but you can use the same lessons. And this is why I wanted you to tell this story, Derek, because it's so important. One of the stories people talk about, like burn the boats. You sold the house, right? Like, hey, if we don't have a house to
Hmm.
live in, we're homeless. We need to go, live somewhere else. And hey, why not start traveling at this point? That expression "burn the
Hmm.
boats" is great because it's like, hey, do something, choose a pathway that your success or failure is unavoidable at that point, and you're projected forward. For me, for those watching, the reason I have this picture in my office here is it's of the Grand Canyon. I'll slide out of the way here, and
Mm.
I saw this picture in a gallery in Aspen, and when I walked in, I looked at the guy and I said, I got to have that picture. He goes, yeah, it's beautiful. And he starts like selling me on it. I go, no, 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 you don't understand. I said, let me show you what's on my phone. And on the screensaver of my phone is a picture I took at that exact location in the Grand Canyon when we were rafting there
Wow.
for it was a 16-day trip, so over 2 weeks. And that trip for me, because we both were in the medical device space, can you imagine leaving
Hmm.
your medical device business for 3 weeks? I was so scared to do it, not because I was going to be in the middle of the Grand Canyon with no cell service, no way to contact the outside world, no medical care if something bad happened, all these things. I was scared, like, what if my client can't get a hold of me and my business falls apart? And but I had to restructure my business over the course of 18 months to make sure that all the right systems were in place. So I think
Hmm.
that's the next important thing that you mentioned, Derek, was basically like if you're in a role, especially in a leadership role, one, I think you probably know this. I know this now after that experience. I came back, I thought I'd have like a couple thousand emails. I had 300. I deleted 120 of them. I had 78 emails that I actually had to like kind of respond to. And half of those I didn't even need to respond to because the problem had already come and gone at that point. So it took me an
Hmm.
hour to go through my emails after 2.5 weeks. And I remember distinctly thinking, one, I'm not as important as I thought I was. And that actually, one, it was humbling, but two, it was very freeing. So, if you are in a role in a business, I'd love for you to speak to this, Derek. If you can look and say, hey, how could I fire myself? How could I make myself irrelevant day to day and empower the people that work for me to be able to do their roles better without me there? What do you think about that?
Yeah. I heard a line, I think Dan Martell, I heard it in like a YouTube video.
Yeah.
80% done by someone else is better than 100% done by you, right? So I think the the action of as entrepreneurs, and
Yeah.
I think the entrepreneurs that are listening right now, they can relate to this. I know you can relate to this. I know I can relate to this. When you start, it's just you, typically,
Yeah.
right? Maybe you have a
Yeah.
partner, maybe you don't.
Yeah.
And you have to wear multiple hats, and you put these multiple hats on. You come up with systems, kind of, or the way in which you do certain things, and you
Right.
pretty much have yourself rooted in every aspect of the business.
Yeah.
And that's cool. You got to do that in the beginning, and it's probably good because it gives you a general understanding of, if you're running a Chick-fil-A, how the fry cook works, how the register works, how to close that out, how to do the bill, take the money to the bank. You got to understand the nuances of how things work under the hood of your business
Right.
before you're able to properly let it go, automate it, delegate, or eliminate it. I know you know those three words because I
Yeah.
saw you send an email once, and I was so excited when that email came across my desk because the idea of I think the order isn't automate, delegate, eliminate. I actually think it's eliminate is
Eliminate.
number
Yeah.
one, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Great
Eliminate
point.
is number one.
Yeah.
Then I think it's delegate,
Yeah.
right? And then within that delegation, teaching them how to automate. But those, when you become just completely obsessed with those three words, when I set out on this journey, Chris, I literally made on Canva like a screensaver that said, now it's my kids, but it says automate, delegate, eliminate. It was on my
Love it.
phone.
Yeah.
And I would stare at that every day. It was on my computer and I just brought it into existence. So everything I did became a system, right? And what you realize, and I'm sure what you realize as well as you started to kind of unravel things, is that when you have to eliminate or really delegate is probably when you have to delegate something
Yeah.
to somebody or automate something in the way in which you were doing it, and you were just doing it the old way in which you did it because you were an entrepreneur and you just wore that hat and now you're handing it over to someone. You realize in that process of boxing that up to hand that off to somebody how screwed up it is. Like how you were like you try to explain it to someone else, you're like, wow, I do this pretty dumb,
You're like,
right?
I'm holding
Because
this
you finally
together
sat down to
with,
look at it.
yeah, duct tape and Gorilla Glue. Like, this is,
Legit,
yeah.
yes.
And yeah, it really exposes the weaknesses in like your systems because it's like, oh, well, if you know how to do everything, it's got to be done your way, then it probably sucks. Like how the way you're doing it. It's not
Just your
robust.
perspective.
Yeah, it's
It's
just
not
it's
robust.
not robust. And to your point, Derek, when you have to teach someone else to do it, I look at this, you got kids, I got two teenage boys who are total idiots because they're teenage boys, just like I was and you were. And you have to explain
Hmm.
something to them. It's like, hey, can I explain this to them in a way that makes sense? That's like, and they're going to argue with me. So it's got to make a lot of sense.
Oh yeah.
So it's like it's got to be very simple. It's got to be repeatable. And when you go from one to six, it's like, well,
Hmm.
hey, can I teach six people that have different personalities, different skill sets how to do this? And I think the big problem, as you were alluding to, is that it's just easier to do it yourself than to teach someone else to do it. But if you always do it yourself
Yes.
and you're not able to teach somebody else, you can't scale and you can't create a system, a true system that if you're not there where somebody messes it up, that it's going to fix itself.
And that's hard, Chris. It's hard to go from the guy that we both were at one point, where we did everything, we did it our way, and the transition of, hey, cool. So I got a process, I box it down, I created an SOP, right?
Yeah.
I've got a system, I created a video for the admin or whoever's going to take over this task role. I've laid it out for them. Now, I know that when I give that said task to that said person and watch them do it, it's going to be painfully slow. They're going to screw it up. It's going to cost me probably time and money. And I'm just going to go back to my old habits of like, you know what? Screw it. I'll do it myself. I'm good.
Yeah.
Right. It takes more time and energy and effort to be able to take something as simple as how your email is being managed. I feel it's been probably, you know what, I'll just keep doing it myself. And I fell down that trap many, 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 many times until I finally succumbed to the fact I got to let them screw up, just
Yeah.
like your kids. I got to use that opportunity to teach
Hmm.
and to reinforce and build better SOPs and build better processes and learn from the fact that the SOP that I just gave them actually sucked because the way that which I did it wasn't a smart way and be open to their feedback. And once I hired an ops manager to help me through this process of unclutching the pearl,
Mm.
and we actually use that term pearl clutch,
Yeah.
where we had all these aspects of specifically the agency where I was like, if I was holding on to something and not letting them take it and give it to somebody else, like pearl clutch,
Mm.
bro, pearl clutch,
Mm.
that's all he'd have to say, and I would just eventually it was like a safe word. I would just threw my hands up. I'm like, okay, go ahead, and it's an excruciating and difficult process. It's time consuming in the beginning, but
Yeah.
that time spent in the beginning through the passage of time creates the output of freedom, which time, location, and financial freedom, I think, is really what most people are after.
Yeah.
But it's not overnight.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of time and effort and focus
Yeah.
and
I love
focus.
it.
And there's a
I
lot of
love it.
nuance to it.
Yeah, so you got to this point, you implemented, these tools, these rules, and the automate, delegate, eliminate. The beautiful thing is it's a constant cycle, right? You get to the other side, and you restart it. It's a circle that repeats itself. And
Yeah.
now with AI, it's one of these things
Wow.
that you can really scale and improve your business in a lot of ways, which is we should have a whole nother podcast on that. But I wrote something down when you were talking about, the house and the stuff and how it wasn't making you happy. And I think, in specifically our society here as Americans, we're taught to go, go to school, get a good job, put money in your 401k, buy a big house, buy the luxury cars,
Mm.
send your kids to
Two
private
and a half
school. Like,
kids.
yeah, this is
Yep.
like your American dream. And what what I've realized, what you've realized is the stuff, it actually not only it temporarily, like I won't say that I don't love driving my Tesla. Like it does make me happy, from time to time. But if I
Hmm.
didn't have it, I wouldn't be any less happy. Unless I had to walk everywhere, then maybe I would think about that. But it's very, very incremental. What we're really after is freedom, and stuff actually put shackles on us to do that. You know,
Does.
I was thinking the house is kind of like a metaphor for you, Derek, but do you think having the house and freeing yourself of all that stuff actually let you like release to get to that next stage in life? That gave you that it kind of gave you that last piece of freedom that you needed to release from that.
I'm so glad you're asking this question and that you are intuitive enough to ask because a lot of people glaze over this part when this, quite honestly, is probably the act of giving things up, of shedding, of downsizing, of eliminating, right? That action was just what I felt a natural part of the process to get to the game to go travel. My goal was to go travel, right? My goal was to go see a lot of new stuff. Again, we call it rich and homeless. Homeless because we have no home, but rich, I wanted to redefine for people on that sharing our experience of what it really meant to be rich, right?
Yeah.
And we've been fortunate to have success financially, but rich in culture, rich in experiences, rich in new foods, rich in new life lessons.
Yeah.
That to me is the essence of life. And that's what's after. What I didn't realize through this process was the necessity of selling everything.
Mm.
Well, like you said, to burn the boats. It was like burn the boats. I'm like, I don't want the parachute of a house to go back to when stuff gets a little
Mm.
difficult, right? We're in
Yeah.
a weird country and we get sick or let's just go home. No, no home, homeless, right?
Yeah.
I didn't want to have to deal with a car. I didn't want any of that stuff. So I had like you, I had obscenely large house, sports car, a Maserati, Audi, like all this stuff, right? And I was like, is this gonna suck to get rid of this stuff? I'd gotten that little injection of short-term satisfaction from like driving the car and all that.
Yeah.
But the reality was it wasn't really filling my soul, right?
Right.
So I went and we sold it all. And as that stuff went out the door, I remember my office, like, working away, building systems, and my wife would just be selling stuff. And I'd just see like TV, couch,
I
stuff just going
remember
out the
that
door.
process. Yeah. When you're doing
Remember
it,
like
getting texts and
like
seeing this.
watching it go out. I'm like, am I bothered by that? I'm like, and I wasn't. It was really weird. I expected to be like, oh man, oh, there goes my TV or there goes my couch. And then everything was gone. And then I went from driving the Maserati, right, to driving with the cheapest whoopty piece of garbage car we could find for the lowest cost in New Zealand for 2 months, right, with the
Yeah.
hubcaps falling off. And I didn't care. I didn't
Yeah.
care how it's being judged. I didn't care. Like none of that mattered anymore. And the sheer act of minimalism, which I'd watch podcasts on minimalism,
Yeah.
I've like watched shows on it, and I was always like, that's stupid. I'm like, who wants to get rid of all their stuff and four t-shirts in their closet? If you walked into my closet right now, 98% of the stuff is gone. I could take my entire closet and put it in one suitcase.
Beautiful. It's
And
beautiful, isn't it?
it Bro, it has been so freeing. And everyone asks what's been the best part of this. Sure, the traveling, the experiences, all that's a given. And that's been incredible. But the act of the freedom, because what you own owns you. We've all heard that statement.
Yeah.
And I always thought,
Yeah.
oh, that's BS. It's true.
Ultimately. Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
people don't get it until they taste it. Because you think you need to add to your life to be able to create more freedom and experiences. And the reality is, just like a good sculptor, if you take away things, right? A good sculptor takes away clay to create some beauty. That's what I do now. So through the taking, like everything, just the eliminating, whittling, simplifying versus before entrepreneur mindset, it's add, stack, more stuff, more stuff.
Yeah.
I learned it's the other way around. It was
Yeah.
backwards.
It's beautiful. One of my favorite experiences in life was when I was racing bikes, and everything I had was in my travel bag. I mean, I had my couple bikes, that I travel with, but everything fit on or in my car. And we traveled around the country, raced bikes. It was awesome.
Easy.
Yeah, it was easy. It was fun. it is nice when you have a family to have a home and be able to, provide things like that. But, it really, I think a lot of people, Derek, they're filling voids in their life with things. And even like as a career, and again, we could do a whole nother podcast on this, but I think that's one of the reasons people are afraid in a way of financial freedom, because they say, well, wait a minute, like, oh, I have to go work. I have to live in DC because I work for a government contractor. I have to pay my mortgage. I have to pay my car bill. It's an excuse to have to do this thing instead of looking inside and saying, well, wait, what should I really be doing with my life? And God forbid that someone has to face, some of the things that I've faced, losing friends, losing family, to say, wait a minute, what really is important in life? And what
Hmm.
it is it's your friends, it's your family, it's the experiences that you go out and live, and everything else is just it's just could you call it, it could be called icing on the cake, but if you got too much icing on a good cake, you don't taste the cake itself.
True. It's true. Yeah, I mean, it's such good points you make, man. This is why we're such good buddies because we're so aligned on our thinking. Um, and some of the controversial stuff we talked about in the first 20 minutes, but
When it flows
I
into
I
it
agree.
flows in, but it flows into that because I think, the way we see things in the world and a lot of the top topics that we discuss, it comes down to, how do we create more freedom in our lives? How do we create more freedom in our businesses financially? But also, how do we, is the environment that we're living in, restricting the freedom that we have, and that's why I think America is so amazing, because we,
Hmm.
we do have we do have this incredible freedom. Which we're dude, we could go on and on. We could really expand this, but I want to know from the pro now,
Hmm.
all over the country, what's your favorite country you visited, and what's your least
Hmm.
favorite country you visited?
Ooh. All right. So favorite country, because and there's so many categories we could do with food and favorite
Yeah,
city, but specifically a country.
yeah.
Like if I'm like, hey, this would be the where I would probably live, it would be New Zealand. Um,
I've heard
New
amazing
Zealand,
things.
and
Yeah,
I,
yeah.
oh, bro, you as the maker outdoorsman as well. It is a playground. It's self-sustainable, great weather. People are chill. If you like I mean, New Zealand grass-fed steaks like a thing you pay extra for. There, it's dirt cheap. Filet mignon in the grocery store, two of them is $8. Eight
Sign me up.
dollars. Be
Sign me up, man.
$40 at
Yeah,
Harrier. Yeah. So I'd say New Zealand. It's also the adrenaline capital of the world, and I like doing a lot of dumb adrenaline-based activities. So it's my happy place, and it's great wine. So my wife's happy place. So
love it.
yeah, that New Zealand favorite country by far.
Amazing, amazing. And
Not least favorite.
yeah,
All right, so I might piss off a few people with this, but you asked. So, out of every country that we've been to 55. We find the beauty in every country. We really
yeah,
do. And we understand that some cultures in some countries are less fortunate than the United States. We've seen that at scale.
yeah.
We've been to a lot of third world countries that a lot of people wouldn't even consider going to, like Pakistan. A lot of people would be like, "You're going to Pakistan? You're gonna die." And I'm like, actually, Pakistan was absolutely remarkable, and I loved Pakistan. It was incredible.
Yeah.
Um, Egypt, Jordan, but the place that we actually left early just recently was India, and I was very
Oh,
surprised by this.
hmm.
I was very surprised to have a lot of Indian brothers and sisters, a lot of Indian investors, and we just had a series of experiences there that we haven't had anywhere else that were
Hmm.
like pretty like with like children trying to grab my wife in areas that
Mm.
you're not supposed to grab
Yeah,
in
that's not cool.
public.
Yeah.
Just a lot of other things that I won't get into, but it was we were disappointed. I'm a huge Indian food guy and all that, but
Yeah.
we left early. Mainly my wife was like, okay, I'm done. And she's got a
She's pretty
pretty high
chill. Yeah.
resilience factor. She's very chill, man. I mean,
Yeah.
like I said, we've been to some crazy places. But I know like India as well as many other cultures, they've got room for improvement. And
Yeah.
generally speaking, it's they got some harsh conditions to overcome in a lot of the country, unfortunately. So that was our probably
Yeah.
our least favorite.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I think you probably need to give it another try. So maybe I'll hook you up with my
we'll definitely
roommate
give
from
it a.
college who lives there, and maybe he can give you a better experience.
Yeah, we have so many offers to do that, and we'll definitely take them up on that because I mean, I'm one of my business partners, an Indian guy, and yeah, I told him of the experience. He's like, yeah, yeah, and that can happen. And I was like, yeah, yeah. So, like I said. It just you got to have one, and that might change, right? It's a rotating
Yeah.
list. It used to be Egypt,
Really?
but
I
yeah,
love the
yeah.
pictures from Egypt, man. I didn't even realize
Oh,
that. So,
Egypt
yeah.
was amazing, and anyone who's been to Egypt will concur with me on
Yeah.
the fact that it's an incredible country that has awesome, cool, like ridiculous things to see that we still can't really figure out how they got there. But
Literally.
literally culturally it's a challenging culture when
Yeah.
you are an American, not so much from a safety perspective, but man, they just try to rip you off on
Mm,
every opportunity you have. So, and you see that unfortunately coming from a fortunate country where we have the privilege of living, but not everywhere,
yeah.
and that, that kind of chalks points up in one direction or another. And again, we're resilient to it. We expect it. We see it, but sometimes it's at a level where you literally have to shove people off you, people climbing into your car, trying to grab your wallet, and these are some of the rich and homeless, some of the rich experiences that we've had, and I laugh them off.
Yeah.
Ton, they're part of the experience, but
And it gives
you're
you
like, okay,
perspective.
that sucked.
Yeah. And I love how you
And
said
my
that.
heart
Like,
goes out. My heart
yeah.
goes out to those
Yeah.
people. They're
I
doing
know.
that because it
Yeah.
sucks.
Yeah.
It sucks. It
But on
sucks.
on a on a little conspiracy note, how did the pyramids get there? How did they do that? We still don't know. What's going on
So
underneath those pyramids? I want to know.
I will tell you the interesting part about Egypt is any guide that's going to guide in Egypt has to be a certified Egyptologist, and
Yes,
they
I
have
did
to
know
go
that.
through
Yeah.
very extensive schooling.
Yeah.
And if you ask them anything conspiracy, I want straight aliens, right? So I was like, all right, how they build these things? He told me the whole clay ramp thing. I was like, dude, I was like,
Dude.
really? You honestly
Uh-uh.
believe that?
No way.
I'm inside the pyramid looking at how it's saw cut, a block that weighs as much as like, 5 cars. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but like, I
You
just
mean to
can't get
tell
down
me
with that.
every individual block is unique and different, and they did that with technology that, yeah, with sand and string. I don't know about that.
Sand and
Yeah.
string and water, and
Yeah.
it's literally saw cut. I mean, it is cut to a hundredth of a centimeter perfection. Where I really lost my confidence in that was like not the pyramids. Now that's just crazy,
Yeah.
but the Valley of the Kings, where you actually they dug into a mountain, right? And you're
Yeah.
going deep into that mountain, and they dug into that, but it looks like they're in with a machine because it's not like a cave that you would expect to be chipped away at. It's like
Right.
perfectly with like statues coming out of it, and I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm like, if one dude just chipped one of these wrong, it would ruin the whole cave.
Yeah.
But it's
It's relief
perfect.
carved.
You're like,
Yeah, it's extraction versus it's really wild. It's one of
yeah,
my favorite
it's
it's one of
alien.
my
It's
favorite rabbit
aliens.
holes to go
It's
down.
aliens. What do
So,
you think? Do you think it's aliens?
um I don't know if I would go so far as to say aliens, but I do wonder if
All
there
right.
was some sort of adjacent technology to like what we have with mechanics, and maybe that
Mm.
technology was lost in a flood or a cataclysm or something in the past, and
Mm.
then we kind of had to restart. But I know we were talking about
Another
Antarctica
podcast. Another
last week. Yeah,
podcast.
yeah, yeah. We'll have to start
Yeah.
a new series. Maybe we can get Joe Rogan and Graham Hancock on there and talk about some crazy stuff. But
That'd be bad.
Derek, we went this whole time. We didn't even really get to dive into your business. So tell us about you talked about your travel agency. Share a little bit about that,
Hmm.
as well as Adapt Media and what you do for companies like me to help with podcasts and media production.
Yeah. So, from the business perspective, yeah, my wife and I, we do have a travel agency. It's called Amy and Derek Travel. So just Amy and Derek.travel. You Google it, you'll find it. We're predominantly focused on international based travel for those who have a bit more of a zest for adventure and luxury. And we do big group trips with people that we're taking a big group of people to Dubai, we hope, in a year. And some of these other locations, we've had 6 or 7 of those. It's a great business. We love to travel. So it's our way of sharing it.
Yeah.
Adapt Agency, which is adapt.agency. We've rebranded to really being able to help any type of business and the person behind that business to build the business that builds their life. So very similar to what we've been talking about, as an entrepreneur who's been through the journey, who's extracted himself from the business, the marketing, the systems, and the operations necessary to be able to build a business that fits around your life versus what most people do is they build the business and whatever's left their life goes into. Yeah. That's dumb. Chris knows that he doesn't do that. So it's teaching people and giving the systems, tools, automation to be able to live at scale. And that's just adapt.agency if you want to jump on a call and see if we can help you box that up a little bit better. And then Rich and Homeless on YouTube if you want to check out some of the dumb planes I've jumped out over, jumping or wine adventures. That we're happy to have you come check us out.
The videos are awesome. And look, the thing I love about you, Derek, is not only do you live it, you help people build it, and you've helped us do that. You're a great friend. It's always good to see you, and we'll catch up as you're back here in the States here very soon. Thanks for being on today.
All right. Thank you, Chris. Appreciate you, brother.
Hey, Chris here again. I hope you found this episode valuable. Now, I have one more thing to gift you. We have a page for my coaching clients where you can get a free copy of my book, as well as much more from previous guests on the show. Just check out nextlevelincome.com/coaching to get a free copy of my book, audiobook, and much more. I'll send you a copy of my book and cover all the shipping costs as a thank you for listening to the podcast. Also, please like, share, and take just 90 seconds to give us a rating on Apple Podcasts.